Well, something I always share with people at the retreats when I see you in person is you are so much more powerful than you realize. All you have to do is take a step in that direction into the unknown and allow what's on the other side to come through. Meaning, if you wanted to start a business, take one step in that direction and watch how it responds. Allow yourself, give yourself the opportunity to experience the support, experience the energy, experience the excitement, because we are not here to just work, pay bills, and die, like they say.
Right.
We're here to experience our power and to realize how much we have inside.
Transaction Care, the podcast. Welcome home to the #1 real estate show on the market. I am your host and resident care coordinator, Lillian Hernandez, but you can call me Lily. My goal with each episode of Transaction Care is to demystify the business of real estate from my point of view and interviews from other voices within the real estate industry around the world. I'm giving you the keys. There are no gatekeepers here. Welcome to another episode of the Transaction Care podcast. Today, I am joined by Margaret Mo Smith, CEO of I Love It One LLC and founder of the BU, the Inner Circle Group and Retreat. She's also a MSW coach, podcast host, speaker, advocate, artist, cheerleader, strategic thinker, and an admin who wants to help bust open the industry and assist in the growth of your business and personal life. I love that. I love everything about that.
Thank you.
Everyone, welcome Mo to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Definitely. One thing that stood out to me on your website was you said, our vision is to create a movement where you are empowered and encouraged to be exactly who you are. And let's just jump straight into it. Who is Mo? Why real estate? How did you get? And we'll eventually get to where you are today, but let's go to the beginning. Like, were you the kid that was like, I'm going to be a CEO one day, I'm going to work in real estate, or did this career path just align at the right time?
That's a great question to start with. I completely fell into the real estate industry. Yeah, I was a kid who normally, I usually always sat in the back of the classroom, never really spoke, spent much of high school like sweating through my classes, hoping I didn't get called on.
Relatable.
Yeah.
The fact that I have a podcast is so transformative. Like,
I love when I meet people who have decided to speak up, and because so often we find that the people who never spoke and spent so much time observing and watching and taking in things have so many things to share. And so I love that. Yeah, I never thought I would be a CEO, never thought I would be in real estate. Didn't even realize that my grandfather on my mom's side of the family had been in real estate until after he passed away and I heard more stories about it. Like, yeah, this was something I fell into because I was looking and I knew that at the time I was working at the Seattle Art Museum and I'd been there for about 5 years. I love art and I love people. And so it was like this fabulous combination of knowledge that I got to learn and actually take part in. And I started having what felt like panic attacks. I didn't really realize what they were, but I started almost blacking out in meetings because I was so fed up with where I was at and I wasn't, again, speaking my truth. And I left and I just said, okay, universe, let me just put it out there. Who has a connection that might want to meet with me and interview me? I'm looking for something completely new. I'm open to whatever. And a mutual friend introduced me to Jesse Moore, who's the owner and CEO of Pickett Street Properties. And I walked into that Keller Williams office thinking, wow, real estate is so old school. Not only in how they operate, right? But like the look of the office, I was like, compared to the museum, which was so modern, I thought this is not where I'm going to end up. And so I ended up staying and realizing that there was a huge opportunity and that the industry needs a lot of help in terms of leadership development, management, training, how to work with specifically my niche became working with operations staff because I found 93% of people in operations positions are women and just underserved and not properly paid. And I was not okay with that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the lack of training and just attention is that is not put at the forefront in real estate. It is a very male dominated industry, but at the same time, we are evolving, we are meeting each other, we are networking. And the fact that you are now providing that space for admin women in the industry to feel safe and to feel comfortable. I'm kind of veering off, but you said, I love that your grandpa had experience in real estate and you had no idea. And I think that's fascinating how our upbringing, whether we are aware of it or not, or even just our DNA, finding yourself in that is really cool. And do you still take some of that knowledge of like, wow, well, he worked in real estate this is destined for me? Or when you found that out, how did that move you?
That's a fabulous question. So, kind of creeping into the spiritual side a little bit, as I'm
Yeah,
very much
go
a
for
spiritual
it.
person.
Go for it.
One of my mentors and coaches is Enmei Mangles, and she's a strategic intuitive advisor. And so, when I started meeting with her, I consider her to be a coach of mine, and I meet with her at least quarterly, if not monthly, when I can.
Yes.
And so she can talk to people who have passed over. And so she would, having that connection with my grandfather was a relationship that I never had when he was alive. And so, uh, I think what it gave me is it gave me some courage, and it gave me also the message that he would send through Enmei was uh, stand up for yourself, be fierce with those men, like tell them what you think and speak up. And so I think if anything, more than the real estate side, it just gave me courage to be more of myself in my life overall.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
My grandpa is also one of my I've never said this out loud, but he's
I
one of
love
my
this.
inspirations too. And while he was alive, he passed away when I was 16, almost half my life ago. There was always conversations about him in real estate. He
Mm-hmm.
didn't own anything, we rented, but that's where my connection started in real estate. But I never thought I would work in real estate. It just
Oh,
kind of resurfaced after he passed away, like, oh yeah, remember he said this, he said that. So that's why I wanted to go back to that topic,
I
because
love that.
it's
And
very,
did he participate in real estate? If he
he
didn't, why was there a connection there for you?
he was a contractor.
Oh, he was. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
so he was always working on things in the house. So I was always like his little shadow. I
Mm-hmm.
was raised alongside my parents, but my grandparents watched us, while my parents worked or after school.
Okay. Yes.
But my grandpa was the one that was home during the day. My grandma worked at nights. But I
Okay.
would always follow him in his little tool shed and, just see him being handy. And that rubbed off on me like, well, I
Mm-hmm.
don't need to hire someone. I could figure this out. And then, of
Yes.
course, then YouTube University pops up and, you just Google something and you learn
So
that.
true.
But yeah, and I think I've gotten a lot of my traits in terms of independence, maybe a little hyper independent at times, but just
Yeah.
from watching him be just resourceful and productive, and as well as many
Right.
influences from other people in my family, but him being kind of the leader in our household.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's so empowering to know that you can take something and change something with your own hands. And I remodeled this house that I now live in, and going through that process changed how I tackle challenges and opportunities for growth. So I love that you had that experience. That's absolutely life-changing.
oh,
Yeah.
totally, totally. And it
Yeah.
definitely gave me a sense of confidence that I still carry to this day. Like even
Yeah.
the scariest of, I don't want to do it. Should I
Mm-hmm.
cancel?
Mm-hmm.
Forget about it. And
Cool.
even starting this podcast, it was almost rooted in my fear of cold calling. And I was like,
Yes.
let me just start a podcast. That's more comfortable for me. I'd rather do that than be on the phone all day with strangers and with no
Yes.
real,
Well, it's such a fabulous way to network, right? Like I'm sure you've met
yeah,
people from all over the industry that will think of you now when they think of
right.
transactions. And yeah, it's fabulous.
Exactly, exactly. So you started working at an office, but then how does one go from the office to my own office? And now I'm a CEO, and
Mm-hmm.
why? I know you
Mm-hmm.
saw a gap and you saw I need to change, but where was your mind in terms of this has to happen? I know
Mm-hmm.
a lot of your journey started during the pandemic, and
Mm-hmm.
take us on that journey.
I think so. What I'm grateful for and what I learned while I was working for Pickett Street was that I had a lot more skills that I had not utilized in previous jobs.
Mhm.
And so working for a small business, and if you work in the real estate industry specifically and you're an admin, you begin to realize that you're often asked, especially if you work for a team, you're asked to be the head of HR,
Yeah,
the head of hiring, the head of
every
marketing, the head of design,
janitorial services, everything,
finance, like what you name
finance.
it. I was
Yeah.
like, wow, okay, like this is an opportunity. You can see it one of two ways, like, oh, I have to do this, or this is an opportunity. And for a while, it was very overwhelming and very much like, oh my God, am I really able to do this job? This might be more than I can handle. But then I decided, you know what? I don't have to know absolutely everything about everything. I just need to know enough to be able to do my job well. And it gives me an opportunity to really get to know other people and network and learn more and learn what's in my wheelhouse and what's not. And so over the years, I realized I can run a small business. I am really good with people. I am an excellent person to organize and strategize for
Yes.
marketing campaigns. Like I learned what I was really good at. And so when COVID hit and we started working from home, I'm very sensitive to energy. I'm very much an empath and I feel other people's feelings. And so it can be a benefit. And it can also be, for me at that point, it was a point where I needed to really learn how to manage my energy better. But I also realized like I love working from home and I'm ready to do something on my own.
Yeah.
And so I just felt so good working out of my house. And I also realized that my vision and what I was wanting to do had strayed too far from what the team's mission and vision was, and that it wasn't really fair to them for me to still stay there, especially if I was unhappy and feeling resentful and starting to feel all these different emotions come up that didn't lead to a happy person in a happy employment opportunity.
Right.
So I left with just enough money to last me about a month and a half, but there was something in me that just said, this is the time, it feels right. And so I left my job in July of 2020, started I Love It When, and just jumped. And it was the best jump I've ever made.
I love it. I love anytime someone takes the leap because it's always going to be scary. I think
Oh
that
yeah,
the reality
absolutely.
of
Guaranteed.
entrepreneurship and business is that it's always going to be scary. It's never going to be perfect. And
Mm-hmm.
you just got to do what you got to do, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And what were some ways you kind of hyped yourself up in that time of like, I'm going to do it. No, I'm not going to do it. No, it has to happen today.
Mm-hmm.
Month and a half of savings, like I did it
Yeah.
3 months, and I thought that was scary. And but I was like, it just has to happen. So what was your relationship with money even?
Mm-hmm.
Did it
Mm-hmm.
matter? Were you just like, I believe in myself so much? And where does that belief come from?
Mm-hmm. That's a very good question. I think I'd been hyping myself up for probably 5 years.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like
That's a good point. I want to stress it really quick. Sorry to interrupt you.
no, do it.
We as newish entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
I'm in my 5th year, you're
Yeah.
3, 4, 5,
Three.
3 years.
Yeah.
There were many years before of contemplating, and I'm glad you
Mm-hmm.
said that, because
Mm-hmm.
even though it appears as a leap of faith,
Yes.
that journey to
Yes.
idea to reality is
Mm-hmm.
relatable. So go
Mm-hmm.
ahead,
No,
speak of it.
absolutely. I'm glad that you said that too. I think people need to know, like, part of the reason I really encourage people that I coach with to teach and to speak is
Yeah,
because it's how you begin to build confidence and just realize how powerful you are. And so it
so
took
powerful.
5 years of me. I was teaching around the country. I did a podcast with my boss called Finally Clicked. I led retreats called the Pacific Northwest Operations Retreat. And they were all to serve other people, but at the same time to serve myself because
Yeah,
I wanted more. I wanted more growth. I wanted more networking. And I also needed to like prove to myself that I knew what I was talking about. And so,
I
yeah, that's why I think when people look, it's like, wow, she took the leap so suddenly. Oh, it wasn't so
know.
suddenly. It was like slowly, 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 suddenly. And when I made the decision, it was just, I'll never forget the day. It was a moment where I was having a conversation with the CEO, Jesse, and I was upset, and we were having a hard conversation about something. And to this day, I don't remember what it was, but I remember saying, you know what, Jesse, I don't think this is fair to you or to everybody else on the team. I think it's time for me to go. I think I'm just ready. And so
Yeah,
I didn't think about money. I didn't know how much money I had in the bank. I just knew that it was time.
yeah.
And so he was gracious enough to work with me. And so we had like a 6 to 8 week departure plan so that I could help hire someone to take over my position. And that gave me some time to prep to leave. And I really love being able to have a graceful exit as well from different
Absolutely.
relationships and friendships and working relationships. I really like to do that. And so it worked out well. But there was really no planning. It was really just going on my feeling and knowing that I believe in the unseen. I believe in the universe. And I believed that when I made space, when I cleared out what I wasn't supposed to be doing anymore, and I made space, that space, even though I didn't know what was going to go in it, something amazing was going to come. And it just every time in the last 2.5 years that I've done that, it's been proven to me time and time again that I will always be taken care of. Yeah. And
Goosebumps.
then, yeah. And I wanted to say, you brought up a really good point too about relationship with money. That
Mhm.
has been my journey over the last 2 years, is really relearning and re-educating myself around what is money. How
Yes,
do you interact with it? Because I just grew up with my parents. We were just paycheck to paycheck basically.
same.
And I wanted to change that relationship with money. And so I'm still in the process of doing that, but I can tell that it's shifting and changing.
We have a very similar path
Okay.
not exactly the same, but
Yeah.
very much like the leap took a lot of courage and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
inner work. Pardon the interruption, but did you know Transaction Care now has merch? Head to tccarepackage.com and get your Care for Yourself, Care for Your Wealth t-shirt, now available at tccarepackage.com. Now let's get back to the show. Let's go back to why real estate. So are you licensed? Are you certified in any area within real estate, or are you just
No.
gravitated towards
So,
it? Was there ever a
I
point where
mean,
you wanted to be or venture into
mm-mm.
sales? No?
Well, I thought about it after I joined, but really when I say that I fell into it, I took a number of different interviews and connections when I left my museum job because I was really just like, I have my master's in social work, but I knew that I didn't want to be in hospital social work. I just knew that I
Right.
wanted to work with people. And so when I cast the net, I just cast a wide net. And so one of my friends said, I know somebody who's looking for an executive assistant. And I was like, well, that's not really exactly what I want, but let me at least talk to him. I'm so glad that I said yes to the opportunity. I'm always big on saying yes and exploring and having the conversation rather than not. And so I truly had I don't like salespeople. That's what I've always said. I'm not a big fan of
Yeah.
salespeople. I'm not a big fan of car salesmen. But then what I realized was I just have to find the right human in that
Right.
industry because
Right.
I actually sell things. I sell things that I'm passionate about. I sell love, I sell growth, I sell collaboration, I sell all of these things that I passionately believe in. And so real estate was never a plan. And then when I was in real estate, I really appreciated Jesse's take on it. I was never licensed for a reason because I'm a former people pleaser. I
Mhm.
love seeing people happy and I'm really good at my job on top of that. And so we kept the license out of it so that agents would not be tempted to say, hey, Margaret, can you drive up to Stanwood, like an hour away, and deliver some keys?
Interesting.
And so that
Interesting.
strategy really helped because what happened was I was kept more free to work on the business rather than in it. So because I was free to work on the business, I was able to build out an epic operations manual. I was able to really work on the different aspects of the team that we wanted to build out. Jesse is very much a visionary and had multiple ideas all the time. So we really figured out a good rhythm to how he wanted to grow. And I was able to do that. If I'd been in transactions every day,
Oh,
I would not have been able to build what I built. Yeah.
I love that. And I love uncovering just the different avenues you could take within real estate. I
Mm-hmm.
think the perception or misconception within real estate is
Mm-hmm.
buy, sell,
Yes.
you're going to be rich. All
Mm-hmm.
this money is just going to flow to you
Mm-hmm.
by only selling and buying and investing, but
Mm-hmm.
there's just so many things you can do with real estate
Mm-hmm.
with or without a license. And thank you for
Yes.
sharing that because I think the process of real estate is very intimidating and heavy and daunting and old school, like you mentioned
Yes.
earlier, and very,
Yes.
very much you have to do it this way. This is how you
Yes.
get in. But there's so many avenues, like
Yeah.
master in social work. Like I never would have associated the two. My best friend, my
No.
best friend is an MSW. So,
Okay.
and she works directly with people and in
Yeah.
medical, that sense.
Yeah. Well, like you've probably found, right? You have to be good with people. And so what I realized was, oh, all of my people skills and my empathy and my care for people is actually what's going to make me a really good salesperson. So,
100%. It's all the
yeah.
things that we dislike about sales that we were probably avoiding that we
Yes.
are now implementing. Like, oh, if I just do the complete opposite, then I can enjoy sales
Mm-hmm.
in whatever
Mm-hmm.
facet that looks like, whether I
Mm-hmm.
do sell real estate or, like you said, coaching, confidence,
Mm-hmm.
time,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
self-love.
Yes.
Those are things we can sell too. And that's why redefining what money means to me, what success means to me or
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to
Mm-hmm.
be the same for every single person.
Yes. And I
And
love what you said earlier about, I'm trying to remember which specific, like just talking more about uncovering and not making it so big and scary as an industry for people. I think also, I never forget that so much real estate has to do with land and with occupying
yes,
land and owning homes. And I want to be a part of breaking that down so that specifically more people of color and more women can
yes.
own land and homes. And there's a lot there. And so this system has been created by mostly white men.
Mhm.
And so that's also a big, like, that's another benefit, I think, of having more and more people from the social work industry or from other industries get into real estate and help to distribute wealth. It's a whole nother topic we could go on another
I
whole other
know.
podcast on.
On that
Yeah.
note, we're going to end the podcast because that was a great end. No, I'm just kidding. But that is also one of my whys is just
Mm.
I don't see people that look like me or
Mm-hmm.
think like me or
Mm-hmm.
are rooted in the ideas that that's why I call my business transaction care. It is a play on
Mm.
California real estate, but at the same time
Smart.
it's like the transactions, I don't want us to just feel like numbers or be numbers
Mm-hmm.
in this process.
Mm-hmm.
I've
Mm-hmm.
met so many people along the way that have purchased real estate
Mm-hmm.
and had no idea what they did the entire process. And they were like, well, I asked them, like, was there an assistant, a TC? Did you ask your realtor questions? They were like, no, I just signed a bunch of papers.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, that doesn't sit well with me. I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
be a part of a business or
Mm-hmm.
an industry where people are just numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to provide a platform that demystifies the whole business of real
Yes.
estate and uncovers and
And
is just more
educates people. Yeah.
educates and just provides that transparency to the smallest thing. But I also
Mm-hmm.
knew I couldn't do that on my own. So
Mm-hmm.
I started the YouTube, the podcast, and that's why I'm here talking to you, because I wanted your perspective on the business of real estate, because it can look different for everyone and it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have to be this black and white cookie cutter,
Yes.
structure that has been programmed in our brains for the years. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I love where you're coming from. So let's talk about like a day in the life of where you're at today. What is,
Okay.
how do you stay productive and motivated at this point
Mm-hmm.
in time as a CEO? And we'll get into the retreat in a moment, but
Sure.
what are you doing day to day just to, maintain and
Mm-hmm.
stay encouraged? Because, as you said, you are an empath and you absorb a lot of people's energies. So how are you
Mm-hmm.
still able to encourage others as well as yourself?
Mm-hmm. I love that. So, how do I stay productive and inspired? One of the best pieces of advice that I got was from a friend of mine, David Bruckheimer, who's out of Minnesota and is also
It's
a
great.
coach. Yeah. And he had said to me, make sure you design your days and your weeks and your month. And I was like, all right. And so I first off started by sharing with my coaching clients that I only coach Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursdays, and
Mhm.
typically usually just in the morning hours. And so I very much have wanted to step back and out of the hustle culture that I feel like so much of real estate is about.
Yes.
I was burnt out. Part of the reason also I left really truly was I was burnt out. I had worked a lot in the 8 years I was there. I had worked my butt off and it felt like I was out of balance. And so a lot of what I've been doing the last 2.5 years is actually deconditioning myself and unwinding all of that. And so
Important.
sometimes I sleep in until 9 o'clock and then I get up and I eat breakfast and I meditate and I don't do a damn thing
Thank
until
you.
I'm ready.
So
Yeah,
you're
until I'm
ready.
ready. Yes. And it's weird. It's weird. I always share with people that are just starting businesses. I've found that I end up coaching some people who just want help beginning. And I share with them, like, what is your self-care routine? Before we talk about anything around your business, what are you doing for yourself every day, every week, every month? And I know it's uncomfortable, but I want you to go there with me. And so really maintaining my meditation, allowing myself to sleep more, allowing myself to go for walks in the middle of the day, making sure I stop for
Yes.
lunch, really creating a schedule that is not like a Monday through Friday type thing. Sometimes I do some work on the weekends because I feel inspired to.
Yeah.
And other days I don't work at all on a Tuesday because I don't just decided I'm going to take a break in the middle of the week. And very much moving with my feminine energy rather than I'm very much into also like balancing the yin and the yang energy. And so for
Yes.
a long time, I've been in this very male,
Masculine.
masculine energy that's just go, 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 make it happen. And I really want
Deadline.
to lean more into this part, which is kind of the magical piece of feminine energy, which is I believe when you slow down, you can actually go faster. When you slow down enough to hear your inner voice, you can actually take one step instead of 10 to reach your goal. And I have found that to be more and more true. And so that's really what I've been doing to keep myself inspired and hopeful is leaning into my self-care time. And also, doing this podcast with you and having my own podcast. I love meeting new humans from all over the globe. And so doing the podcast has really changed my life in that way. And as long as I can keep meeting new people and balancing my energy as an introvert and as someone who still loves humans, that keeps me entertained and inspired and hopeful. Yeah. And
That is
productive.
amazing. I cannot stress the importance of, and it may not have to be, it doesn't have to be a morning routine per se. I feel it's more
Mm-hmm.
beneficial when it is a morning
Mm-hmm.
routine because our days
Mm-hmm.
can be very loud and heavy
Mm-hmm.
and distracting.
Mm-hmm.
And I reintroduced my morning routine in the last, I would say, year, like consistently. And it
Mm-hmm.
has changed everything. I love that how you said just slowing down, giving
Mm-hmm.
yourself that space and the permission to sleep in.
Yes.
Thank
Yes.
you for saying that. I am not
Yeah.
the best. If I didn't have to take my nephew to school every day, I would I'm the same because I know
Yeah.
I'm gonna give my all the rest of the day.
Yes.
So I need that time to decompress and to
Mm-hmm.
process and to
Mm-hmm.
just relax.
Mm-hmm.
Even just breathing. I think
Yes.
we even aren't breathing properly throughout the
Oh
day.
my God. Yes. You remind me of, do you know Tony Patillo?
Oh, I don't
I'll
know.
have to introduce you. So she's in the Los Angeles area, and I just had her on my podcast, and she spoke in our BU group as well. And she is a fabulous realtor, and she does breath work at the beginning of each of her meetings with her clients. And she has had clients say, "Oh my God, I think this is the first time I've learned how to breathe properly."
Yes.
And that has changed. I've really thought about that so much because you're right. I think oftentimes our breaths are so short because we're
Mhm.
in panic mode, especially as admin and TCs,
There's
with the
always something
deadlines constantly. Yeah.
constantly. So
Yeah.
yeah, just having that break to start your day, or if it's in the
Mm-hmm.
middle of your day, or even right before you
Mm-hmm.
go to sleep. Like I just started
Mm-hmm.
introducing nighttime journaling because
Oh, cool.
I just journal during the day. But
Yeah.
yesterday I was having a really heavy just day.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't figure out how to like get out of it. And I was like, well, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not tired.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to read. I don't want to go on the internet. And I
Yeah.
just grabbed my journal and I was
That's
like,
awesome.
oh, this feels good. So I felt lighter when I woke up. And
Yeah.
sometimes you just need to purge like whatever it is you're going through. And it doesn't have to
Mm-hmm.
be necessarily rooted in like childhood trauma. It could just be like, this day sucked.
Yeah.
How can I make
Just
it
get it
better?
out.
Just get it out. Even just say
Mm-hmm.
this day sucked. Or
Mm-hmm.
this day was amazing. I need to get it out. I didn't have everyone was asleep by the time I felt this at 1 o'clock in the morning. Let me just get it out. So
I love
yeah,
that.
a lot of our work is more so, people, someone asked me this weekend, what is your favorite part about your job,
Mm.
business, your career? And I was like, honestly, it's not necessarily like checking things off of a piece of paper. It's the impact. It's
Mm.
the fact that I've made a choice and advocated for myself and
Mm.
said, this is what I see, exactly what you said. This is what I envision for myself, how I want my day to feel and look
Mm-hmm.
like. And
Mm-hmm.
the fact that you gave yourself that grace and that time to just
Mm-hmm.
map that out, whether you knew it was possible or not,
Yeah.
you put yourself first and gave yourself that opportunity to explore
Mm-hmm.
that. And it's
Mm-hmm.
still evolving and growing. And,
Mm-hmm.
with that said, let's go through everything you offer so people can know, what you're doing. And then we could break down,
Mm-hmm.
the retreat. I keep bringing it up because I definitely want to talk about how does one go from one day I'm at a museum to now I'm like hosting a retreat and able to get people in the same space and travel and
Mm-hmm.
especially being an introvert, naturally
Mm-hmm.
like what we don't do that. So yeah,
Yeah.
where do you service people, throughout is it throughout
Mm-hmm.
the world, the country, and just the PNW? Let's get into it.
Okay. Yeah. So when I first started my business, I thought, oh, I'll be mostly coaching admin and real estate. And that has not at all been the case, because I think for the most part, real estate agents don't really want to pay for their admin to get coached. And a
Right,
lot of admin can't afford it within their salary.
right.
Some TC business owners I've been working with have been able to make it happen. But what ended up happening was I have always had just a small number, like anywhere between 3 to 5 coaching clients at a time, which I also like. I didn't want a full, like some coaches are working with 30 plus people a week
Right,
and
right.
we meeting with people every half hour. And that is not me. I don't want that. And that's not my goal. And I don't feel also like I can bring my entire self to my client in that way with that energy that I have. And so I've always had like 3 to 5 clients, and my first client was a real estate agent out of San Francisco, who had found me through listening to my previous podcast. We had never met in person, but
Oh
he
wow.
had listened to that. And then I've worked with people across industries. I worked with a writer to help her start her website and business. I've worked with holistic healers. I have worked with some admin, but what I've ended up doing most of the last 2.5 years are keynote speaking engagements, workshops, and retreats with teams and companies that are in real estate and also like in the video game industry, but people who are
Wow.
looking for a workshop around vulnerability and communication. So how do we communicate better? How do we talk to each other? How do we bring I like how my mentor Enme talks about it. It's like bringing the soul back into business. And that's a
Yes.
little bit
Ooh,
of not a little bit, that's a lot of what I
a
love to
lot. Yeah.
do. Yeah. And so most of my time has been creating these workshops and doing retreats on a small scale because I was that person sitting in a retreat and I just loved it. I love the deep conversation. I love creating moments. And I really have discovered that I'm good at helping to facilitate creating a safe space for people in which they can feel like they can open up and be vulnerable. And so I always think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs and how on the bottom of the triangle is physical and mental and emotional safety. Mm-hmm. And if people don't have a roof over their heads, if they don't have food, if they don't feel safe, we can't expect them to open up and go to the next level of like internal discovery. We have to cover those basic needs first. And so thinking about that, I always think about that, whether I'm in a Zoom room with somebody, whether I'm in a physical house with people. And so when I realized, okay, this is where most of my work is going, this is interesting, I just went for it. And then so I've been talking to companies, giving proposals, networking and meeting new people who are interested in that. But also, I think the word's just getting out more and more about what I'm doing. And so people are coming to me saying, hey, can you host? I hosted a team retreat for 2 TC companies that wanted to pair up together and bring their employees so they could join forces kind of and help to afford it. And so we did a 3-hour workshop for them just a couple months ago. And then I did a video game company. So again, it's a variety. But the thing that has carried over from my real estate career, what was the Pacific Northwest operations retreat, is now BU, the retreat for admin and real estate. That retreat is not a retreat that you go to if you want to learn about databases and drip campaigns and the details. Yeah, because I fully believe that when you stick 2 admin in front of a database, the one who has worked on their self-confidence and has worked on really getting to know themselves and believe in themselves, they are always going to outperform the other one that has the technical skills.
I agree.
There's also another study that I always want to mention. It's a study done by Harvard, and they looked at soft skills and how soft skills are actually 85% of the reason for someone's success in their career, no matter the industry. Wow. And it's also the thing that most companies do not spend any money on. And so soft skills are listening, leadership skills, communication, interpersonal, like communication with other team members. It's all the things that we really need to be focused on that we're not. And so that's my retreats really focus on that. And so I always tell real estate agents, like, listen, send your admin to my retreat, and I promise you they're going to bring back some new skills and also 45 other humans that they can call up when they're like, hey, my real estate agent wants me to do this and I've never done it before. How do you do it? It's really about building those relationships. That's what's changed the trajectory of my career, is when I started to meet admin who were on teams bigger than me, who were further ahead of me in my career that I could network with. That's what changed my life and then changed my team's life. That's a little bit about what I do, but the other aspect too is that as I've started my own company, I'm really fully more integrating myself and who I really, all of me into it. And that includes my spiritual side. And so I also have a retreat called Unscripted. That's for personal development and spiritual growth. And that's where I dive more into like Reiki, energy healing, really getting to know yourself on a different level, because I believe that coming from a holistic aspect, that's how we're going to heal the planet. That's how we're going to heal, regardless of wherever you work. I believe it's about humans first. And so that's really the whole Margaret that I'm bringing now to I Love It When.
Well, I love it. So is that how the name I Love It When how did that?
Yeah, no, great question. So that came from Enmei Mangles. So Enmei, one of the things she worked with me from the very beginning on was she said, Margaret, I need you to stop doing. She's like, stop doing, and just be. And I was like, Enmei, how do I just be? And she's like, just play with it. And she would always say, I love it when the right people come into my life at the right time. I love it when I have the opportunity to be with friends. I love it when, and she started this mantra for me. And when COVID started, one of the things I started doing was, I'm also an artist. And so in my bedroom wall, I just was like, you know what? I've always wanted to do this. I'm going to write all over my bedroom wall quotes and words that mean something to me.
That's so liberating.
Yeah, it's really. And people were doing that in Seattle at the time, at the beginning of COVID. People were doing different graffiti and different art projects all over the city. And so I wrote all over my bedroom wall, and I was on GoDaddy.com trying to figure out what the heck to call my business. And I was like, why don't I just go to the source of one of my creations? And I went back to my bedroom, looked at the wall, and I was like, oh my God, I love it when. And I went back, and it was available on GoDaddy for iloveitwhen.org. And I thought to myself, as soon as I can see, I very much have a natural flair for marketing and communication because I love people so much. And so in my head, I could see marketing campaigns of I love it when dot, dot, dot. And I could have different people say what their I love it when is. And as soon as I can visualize the marketing, I know I have it. And so I just went with it and it came from there. So Enmei was the source of that inspiration for sure. Yeah.
Alignment. I love everything about that
I
because
love alignment. Yes.
when it's meant to be, it's meant to be, and you just got to go for it. And
and you'll feel it in your body, right? Like I'm sure you felt
yeah,
it. Like when you, that's what I love helping people get back into their body with meditation, with breath work, with different ways, because when you realize that your body is trying to communicate with you, all of a sudden decision making becomes a lot easier. It doesn't matter what other people think. It doesn't matter what other people say. When your body's like ding, 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 ding. I remember when I first told people I was leaving, we had somebody on our podcast at the time, Jennifer Beatles, who's a fantastic, amazing female investor in the real estate world. She was like, you're glowing. It almost looked like it's like you got engaged. I was so in alignment with what my soul wanted that I really began to realize that I needed to talk to my body more because my body was helping me to make decisions, which is really where my soul lives. Yeah.
Yeah. Surrender has been one of my themes in the last
Me too.
month and a half.
Love
Honestly,
that.
I was like today years old when I realized like I need to surrender more
Yes.
and just let go and
Yes.
lead with gratitude and kindness
Mm-hmm.
and be more generous. I
Mm-hmm.
think going back to the money mindset we
Mm-hmm.
discussed earlier, I was like, where am I getting stuck? Where am I, where do I feel clogged? Where do I feel free? And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
how can I fix or improve in those areas? And it came down to, I always thought greedy was like Scrooge, just like this
Mm-hmm.
angry, bitter person. And I
Mm-hmm.
was just like, well, let me really just define or redefine what greed means. And it's
Mm-hmm.
that scarcity mentality. It's like, well, I know this is going to bring me joy, but I'm too scared to spend the money because,
Yep.
maybe business is kind of slow in this season and the market
Yep.
shifting. And I was just like, F it. I'm just gonna, this is gonna bring me joy. Let's
Yes.
go for it. Do it afraid, but also
Yes.
trust the process.
Yes.
I no longer want to lead with only fear.
Yes. Totally.
I understand that the fear is always going to be there, but I have to let go and
Mm-hmm.
surrender and not
Mm-hmm.
overthink every single time or
Oh
be
my gosh.
scared.
Yes.
And that has opened up so much for me. And even when I started planning out this podcast, I would say 2 months ago, I've always had the
Mm-hmm.
idea, much like that leap of faith. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it seems overnight, but it's like I've been wanting to do this podcast for years, but I was always like, what if it doesn't make me money? What if it doesn't do that? And I was like, it's not
Mm-hmm.
even about that.
Mm-hmm.
It's for me to grow and evolve and see where that leads me in life.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And believing the resources that I'm fully resourced. I am safe. Like
Yes.
money is no longer scary or an unsafe territory for me.
Yes.
I have enough,
I love that.
and affirmations and even
Mm-hmm.
relearning my own love languages.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought it was quality time for years. And I'm like, no, it's actually words of affirmation. So I
Mm.
started reaffirming myself
Oh, I love that.
versus seeking it from outside,
Yes.
validated from
That's
external
so
places.
key.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
So it's not about me. It's about you.
No, I love this.
One
It's
coaching
very,
session.
I love that it's that we can share back and forth about this though, because what you just
Definitely.
shared is what I want every admin really that I've talked to in the industry. I want them to hear you and really feel that because
Yeah.
part of what my process is too with the retreat and with coaching with me is I come across a lot of people who are like, I can't afford
Yeah.
this.
Right.
I can't. And so part of me working to sell the retreat is I have to have a lot of one-on-one individual conversations. But I understand that this is part of my work and this is part of what I'm good at. And it's also part of the process for them is that once they say yes to the retreat and they realize all the different ways that they can get there, it's also, they've already started the learning. The learning has already begun as soon as they've said yes. And it takes a lot of work to reframe that money mentality.
It does. And I feel like it's held me back over the years. I think I've
Mm-hmm.
even stayed at my job way longer than I should have
Me
because of that
too.
mindset, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm grateful to be where I am today. And I do not take
Yeah.
any of this for granted. The fact that I've made it 5 years and you've made it three
Yes, it's
years, that
huge.
is huge. That's
Yes.
huge in the grand scheme of things. It's just like,
Yes.
what? How did I do this for 5 years? What? So now, I'm just starting to venture out and
Yeah.
rediscover who I am in this space, and wanting and yearning for these types of conversations, and
Hmm.
learning that we are a lot more alike than I thought,
Hmm.
or that
Hmm.
it doesn't have to be this one path. Like, there's
Hmm.
so many ways to get where we need to. Let's get into the retreat. Let's talk
Okay.
more about Inner Circle that you've created. How did that
Yeah.
itself, and you co-founded it, right? Am I
Yeah. Co-founded with Kathleen Metcalf,
okay?
who her business is Kathleen Metcalf Coaching, currently in the midst of a brand renew, though, that I think is coming out in the next couple months. I mean, it came from, like I mentioned earlier, this desire for something more.
Yes.
And I had met and was running an admin mastermind in the Pacific Northwest in the Seattle Bothell area for a while. But we had these dreams as a team of expanding outside Washington State. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to help you do this unless I network and get to know some of these other operations staff across the country.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I want to do a retreat, and it's happening. So I set the date. I started with a 5-bedroom VRBO in Monroe, Washington. And I reached out and personally invited, I think I started with 25 different top level and other admin that I knew would want to come anyways. I reached out and I personally invited all these people, and it sold out. And I had Susan Scott, the author of Fierce Conversations, come as one of the speakers. And also at the time, Elise Touche, who was a life coach. And those were my first 2 speakers. And so it came out of a desire to be fed more, to give myself more, because I just wasn't finding enough learning or enough resources for myself. I wanted more. And from there's always been a passion. I've always had this passion to have a nationwide, like the admin mastermind that I ran in Seattle. I wanted it to be nationwide. I wanted to reach more people. And so we created a mission and a vision for that group probably back in 2018. And I was like, I don't even know why I want to do this, but I know that
Yeah.
it needs to happen. And that became the mission and the vision for BU the Inner Circle. And so when I was leaving my job, I had found Kathleen through an email newsletter. An email newsletter came through to Jesse, and it was from Vanessa Rosenblum with Pro REA Staffing. And he forwarded it to me and said, hey, maybe this lady would consider sponsoring your retreat. And when I looked for sponsorship, it was very difficult because a lot of people, there's not an outright benefit to sponsoring a retreat for admin and real estate.
Right. It's
They
super
don't, I mean,
niche, first of all.
right? Yeah, they're like, I mean, unless they get to talk to big teams or teams who might help promote them, why would somebody sponsor it? So I had to do a lot of legwork. I share the story about how one year I was looking for $5,000 and I had to talk to 45 different people to get $5,000. But it really showed me that, hey, if you keep asking, you'll get the yes eventually. You just have to ask enough people and not give up. So that's how I found Kathleen, was through Vanessa. And then Kathleen and I started talking, and we realized we had so many values in alignment. She is very much like May always calls her my barometer, meaning like,
Oh, wow.
I can come to Kathleen with anything, and she's always so responsive in the best way, like very even, very much comes from a place of love and a place of service. And so we decided to start BU the Inner Circle together, and we're now just about to start our 3rd year of this. And it's basically an admin from any brokerage can join. You can be in any position. You could be a front staff desk person for a brokerage. And our goal is just to serve these people who work behind the scenes. And so we meet twice a month. You have an accountability buddy. Yes, there's homework, but people are always worried about the homework because they're such achievers. They want to do that. And I'm like, look, if you didn't do the homework, we're not going to say, don't come to the meetings. That's not the point.
You're not going to
The
get
point,
the attention.
yeah, right. The point is to have something to discuss. And so, yeah, if you want to achieve more and you want to be at a different level, I do recommend reading the books and doing the homework, because we don't give a ton for a reason. We know how busy everybody is, but we are very intentional about the homework that we give. And Kathleen and I have worked enough together, and then also worked enough in each of our own roles to know what will help people move forward in their journey. And so we have a success path that has 6 stages. Each stage lasts 2 months. And so, like, for instance, we're restarting stage 1 in February, and that's called Name It. And that's where you start by looking at, what are the things you learned in your childhood? What did you learn about money that you want to unlearn and rewire?
Yeah.
And so we help people identify different things that will help them excel in their career. When it came time again, after COVID had started to settle down and I was ready to start retreats again, Kathleen was like, would you please do another admin retreat? Would you please? And I really didn't know what was going to come of that because I had been running them when I was in that job, but I didn't know what my business was going to really do.
Yeah.
And so I realized like I'm always going to have a foot in the real estate industry because it's such a dynamic industry and there's so much work to be done. And it has changed my life. It helped me buy my first duplex. It changed the trajectory of my life financially. And I want to help share that knowledge. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to plan, this will be the 5th retreat that I've had, and it'll be in May 4th through the 7th in Idaho Falls. So also the first time I've done it outside of Washington State.
Yeah.
And yeah, I always have super dynamic speakers. So my whole goal behind the retreat is to expose admin to a high level speaker, beautiful catered meals by a private chef, and just a next level experience that we normally don't get exposure to. Real estate agents get all these access to these amazing events with Tony Robbins or
Convention
you name
centers,
it, right? And like, there's just not the same level for us. And so this retreat is kept small for a reason. It's not like your typical conference. As of now, I don't see myself, and I say that because I've talked to Kathleen about it. I could see hosting it at a bigger venue, but there will always be this small component to it because when you get people together in this space, magical things happen. And it's very powerful when I don't usually do more than 45 people. And then I have 2 or 3 high level speakers. Like I've had Gary John Bishop, who wrote Unfuck Yourself. I've had Tyler Schmidt, who was the EA to Gary Vaynerchuk. I've had Monique Hellstrom, who used to work for Simon Sinek. So I'm very intentional with who I bring together so that the most impact can happen and people can experience change and transformation.
Wow. Intentionality and impact.
Yes.
2 of our favorite eyes.
Very much.
How can people get to the retreat? Is it sold out? Or are we still selling tickets? What's going on?
Still selling tickets. Yeah, because I haven't done it for a couple of years. So I know that part of this too is I think I'm gonna start doing more reaching out in the next couple of weeks. You can just go to my website, iloveitwhen.org. There are 45 spots and I believe there are 38 tickets left. And so, yeah, there's still tickets left. And I think this will be the first time that I've done it in person as the owner of my own company. And I'm really excited for the different energy that's going to come from that intention. Yeah.
I love it. And congratulations on everything.
Thank you.
To this point, what's to come.
Thank you.
Such a beautiful journey. And I want to wrap things up now. But before we do, please share your social medias. We'll go over everything again at the end, everything will also be in the description. But how can people reach out to you? You gave us the retreat website, but how can people work with you directly?
Yeah, I always welcome people to text me. So my number is 206-228-5067. And you can find me on Instagram. I'm really active under the Margaret Smith or I Love It One LLC. And BU, the Inner Circle, is on there too. But you are welcome to just reach directly out to me. Yeah.
That's amazing. Who else just says, text me? Here's my number.
I really believe in access, and I really believe in, much like I love the goal and the intention of your podcast, let's demystify it. Let's, just go straight to the source. And I understand, obviously, there's sometimes I have to say like, hey, I can't talk right now, or I can't talk in the moment. But especially when it comes to working with admin and demystifying and getting them to a place where they can really go next level in their life. Yeah. Have access to me.
Absolutely. Because sometimes all it takes is one text.
Yes.
And their life has changed forever.
Yes.
So last things, I want to wrap this up, but what is one goal you don't mind sharing publicly with my audience today that you want to achieve in 2023? Big, small, great question. No pressure. Just
one goal in 2023.
Could be learn how to write with my other hand. Like
that's a good one. I could definitely work on that. I would say, God, well, the one goal that's sticking out in my mind to share is I want to do a TED Talk.
Oh, I could see you doing that. I could definitely see you doing that.
Yeah. And I don't know. And it's interesting because when I always share with people that I always feel like I'm going to throw up for about the first 10 minutes of speaking in front of a group. And so I just warn the crowd, just to warn you guys, it hasn't happened yet, but if it does, just be prepared.
I have my little bag. Don't worry.
And so I could never imagine, I still don't even know exactly what I would talk about, but taking those leaps and showing myself how brave I can be. I really love the thrill of that. And each time, you know, it doesn't matter if I slip up on my words or I say things backwards, because I do. It's like I become dyslexic when I'm talking. It's about the experience. And when I put myself out there each time, I am so pleasantly surprised by what happens from that.
That is beautiful. Yeah. And I'm going to look out for your TED Talk. I know it's going to happen. I know it is.
Thank you.
We don't know when, but we give it up to the universe and it's going to happen. And I don't believe in gatekeepers, and you've given us so many keys already to
good.
Just working in administration as a CEO, everything. But what is one last key that you want to leave the audience with that can help them just to feel more empowered and encouraged, and just take that leap of faith, whether it's overnight or 5 years from now, just to feel better about themselves in the next phase of their life?
Well, something I always share with people at the retreats when I see you in person is you are so much more powerful than you realize. All you have to do is take a step in that direction into the unknown and allow what's on the other side to come through. Meaning, if you wanted to start a business, take one step in that direction and watch how it responds. Allow yourself, give yourself the opportunity to experience the support, experience the energy, experience the excitement, because we are not here to just work, pay bills, and die, like they say.
Right.
We're here to experience our power and to realize how much we have inside. And I also feel called to share that one of the things I oftentimes have clients do is, I got this suggestion from a coach of mine: record affirmations in your own voice on your phone using I am and you are, and listen to those every day for, let's start with 3 months and see what happens. But that will help you. It'll help your brain to start to recognize. I mean, when it hears its own voice, it's much easier to rewire your neural pathways in your brain. So whatever you want to focus on, if it's money manifestation, if it's creating more abundance, create affirmations around that and listen. I swear to God, I do it every single day and it changes things.
I'm ready to go do that myself right now.
Do it. Do it.
I am, you said I am, you are?
Yeah, when you want to speak in I am, and you also want to say you are, because your brain also takes directives. So it hears you when you say I am, but when it says you are, it's like, go do this. And so it hears both. So you want to say both. So some of my affirmations are, I am beautiful, you are safe. So just whatever you feel called to share, make it about 1.5 to 2 minutes. I listen to it in my car, on my speakers, when I'm going places. Like, you will be surprised, and don't be surprised if like a couple months down the line, you're in a quiet moment and you hear yourself say one of those affirmations in your head. And that's what happened to me. Blew my mind.
Wow. Well, I couldn't have asked for a more perfect ending. Thank you so much for your time, Mo. This has been fruitful. This has been inspiring, motivating, all of it. And I'm just excited for everything that's to come for you. All of the information to reach Mo will be in the description, as well as across all social media platforms. Thank you. That's all I can say is thank you so much.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's fun. It's fun to have these conversations and to give people a chance to hear, but also just realize what's out there. Yeah.
Definitely. So with that said, everyone, that was another episode of the Transaction Care Podcast. Care for yourself, care for your wealth. Your time is worth it. Let's coordinate. Talk soon. Thank you again for listening to today's episode. I don't normally do this at the end of each episode, but are we friends on social media? Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook at Transaction Care. I would love to interact with you. I post daily. I answer DMs. I like your post, I'll comment, I'll shout you out. Either way, hit me up on social media at Transaction Care and let's get it going. Until the next episode, my name is Lily. Talk soon.